Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android. We recommend Spotify. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel for all your South Florida sports content. The Dolphins beat the Bills. How did that happen? Also, Messi and company, they've advanced in the playoffs, Inter Miami, and more. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. That's $2.99 per month. You can catch the link right here in the description. We talk about it all the time because it's a place for the most heat anywhere. It's kind of our central base these days. So if you want to find out everything that's going on, not just with the Heat, but also with sort of the Five on the Floor ecosystem, it's there. Check it out. It's Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. You can bypass the Apple upcharge by using the link in the description. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You get $50 in free lineups. Prize Picks is the official fantasy sponsor of the Five Reasons Sports Network, legal in the state of Florida. I just hit on 4 of my plays right there in a row on a Sunday. Made it worth it. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your 5, get your 50. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation. We the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket. Open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mornings. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Dang, Wake County, Heat Nation, we still proudly.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
I'm on the floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on 5 Reasons Sports. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. The Miami Heat are 10 games into their season. They've played 6 of those games on the road. They've played 7 or 8, I believe, against teams that made 7 against teams that made the playoffs last season. They haven't had Tyler Hero for any of those 10 games. Bam Adebayo has missed 2 games. He's going to miss at least a third and probably a fourth and a fifth. It's going to be a little bit longer here. I know you had said that initially, and I didn't believe the day-to-day either. And then Norm Powell, 2 games he's missed. Erik Spoelstra's had to deal over the past couple of games with what happened to him off the court with his house burning down as they flew back from Denver. Terry Rozier is taking up a roster spot, but isn't allowed to play. The Heat came into the season without a roster spot, and again, they're still 6-4. This was a stretch of the schedule that we said if they got out of it at like 4-6, 5-5, you'd be happy, especially after Hero went down. But they're better than that. They've also developed a style that not only is working offensively, which is what everybody's talking about, but the team is still top 10 in defensive rating. It doesn't look like that because they're giving up like 120 points regularly, but it's because of the pace. The players have bought into the pace. I asked both Spo and Norm Powell after the game, after the win against Portland, about sort of this empowerment. So make sure you check that out. That's all on the Twitter feed, and we'll do more about that in another episode. But I want to focus on something bigger picture here, Greg. And we're 10 games in the season. I'm not saying this team is going to get out of the play-in necessarily. Although the East, it doesn't look like anybody is especially formidable. Detroit's gotten off to a good start. Knicks have gotten off to a pretty good start. But Orlando has not looked like we thought. They're struggling with their new offense, actually. Atlanta has without Trae Young for a month. We've talked about the Milwaukee's roster in general. I don't think anybody believes in Chicago's start. So if you look at all of that, you're like, okay, they're not badly positioned. And they're not badly positioned in part because we need to do this. And I'm sorry, I brought some water.
Uh-huh.
The front, you got some too? Front office has had a
really big cup.
Really big cup. They've had a pretty damn good 9 months. They've had a pretty damn good 9 months. I mean, let's look at it here. And again, it has to sustain, but let's go back to the position that they were in with Jimmy Butler, who did not want to be here anymore, who was creating major issues behind the scenes. I mean, the sigh of relief from everybody in that organization, which I talked about at the time, you feel it in that building. Okay, that locker room, the heaviness is gone. Like everybody is themselves now. It's different. Okay, Norm Powell They are in love with him, this organization. And so, as you talked about, they're going to extend him. It's just a question of the price. But it's not just the on the court stuff. He's just so low maintenance off the court also. And he's bought into a leadership perspective. We kind of projected that. I said before the season, he would end up being the guy with Bam. He's done that. That's what I heard about him and all his other stops. And so there, again, the clouds have been lifted. It feels healthy. And now let's look back at everything they've done since they were backed into a corner with the Jimmy trade. They did not have a lot of options. And by the way, if Durant had gone to Golden State, which he didn't want to do, they had no options, okay, at that point. And Jimmy would have been on the roster to the end of the season. But let's look at it, Greg. Since that point, they acquired for Jimmy Butler Andrew Wiggins. I'm going to give you some stats. You tell me what you think of this, okay? Jimmy's already complaining about defense and all the rest of this stuff in Golden State. 10 games this season for Andrew. 9 for Jimmy. Jimmy's averaging 18.7, Wiggins 17.3, rebounds 5.1 to 4.6 in favor of Jimmy. Assists, we know Wiggins is not a big passer, 4.3 to 2.3. Wiggins is out-stealing him, out-blocking him, shooting better from the field, 52% to 48%. They're both at 40% from three. Jimmy's at 40% from three. Look at that. Free throw percentage, Wiggins has struggled. Jimmy's at 90%, but effective field goal percentage, Wiggins is at 59 and Jimmy's at 52. Wiggins is making half the money, Greg. Before we get to some of the others, and I talked to Wiggins last night, by the way, and there's a big smile on his face for people who were concerned about that. And when I asked him about Tyler and all this and what was going to happen when Tyler came back, he says, I'm really looking forward to that. So that's another podcast, but he's going to get more space. What do you make of just that top line? They could be paying Jimmy Butler $60 million right now.
They could. And I mean, I think it's okay to acknowledge that Jimmy Butler, this doesn't discount what he did in Miami and how great he was. So like, that's where I want to start, because I don't want this to turn into that we're saying, oh, look, they got a player better than Jimmy Butler, because what Jimmy was in Miami was truly unique. But you continue to talk about, if you're going to pay a guy, he has to be available and he has to continue to play at a certain level, right? And we're seeing Jimmy has plateaued at a certain level. We know he can raise his game at moments, for stretches. I guess conceptually for the Warriors, it'll be in the playoffs when they need him to really step up, if Steph is, out or in foul trouble or not shooting well, whatever the case is, right? But so I'm not saying Wiggins is necessarily the same impact player as Jimmy in the biggest game, but day to day, Wiggins is providing statistically a lot of what they were getting from Jimmy last year with so many less of the headaches. He's bought in a way where I think that they're not rushing to trade him. They're not shopping him and stuff like that. Obviously, if a team offered a first round draft pick, you got to really evaluate that, right? But he is fit in a way that last year I was reluctant to commit to him sticking around, because I didn't know that it just was sometimes things don't mesh. And that has completely reversed itself in terms of my perception is that the organization and the player in this sense are really in a good place. And you're seeing it in the way that he plays. He's not great every night, but you can kind of rely on what you get from him. And his temperament is a welcome thing for the locker room. They had a completely different vibe last year. And so it's all good things so far for him. And I don't see them rushing to trade him as much as people want transactions.
Well, it's what I said about Powell. He's low maintenance. Like they don't really have to worry about him. And I asked, I said last night, I said, this wasn't your most efficient night. You still step up and take the shot. And he's like, I like taking those shots in those situations because nobody cares about anything else if you make them. And that is the kind of attitude that he has to have, because they've gone to him. It's been swing, and then it's like he's open. And if he's going to be on the floor at the end, he's like, I wasn't exactly sure the Spo was going to close with him last night. And I say that last night because we're recording this on Sunday. It wasn't clear. He had Larson out there. He had Hawkins out there. He needed a big, although he went with that thing with Wiggins at center for 2 possessions, which was disastrous. But he had Davion. He obviously had Norm. Now, I think Wiggs is going to close at the 4 most nights. I just think that's where we're headed. Now, if Jovic does what he did last night, my thing with Jovic, though, is that Spo's got to let him play through the mistakes. He's going to make a bunch of turnovers. He's going to do some things. You're like, Nico, what are you doing? Okay. And, this that step back crossover, whatever the heck Harden thing he was doing that Spo made fun of at the end. He's going to do some of that, but he's got to play through those pockets. The thing with Nico I don't know about is if you can trust him to be in there every night at the end of the game, because if he makes those kind of mistakes at the end of the game, Spoelstra can't leave him out there. So that's kind of where it's at. Like the 6 turnovers during the game, not great, okay, but again, you can recover from it. You can't recover from a late turnover that's just like him not thinking, and there needs to be a little bit of development there beforehand. With Wiggins, Spo's going to trust him at the end of the games to play. But let's go beyond it, okay? So you got Wiggins. Well, you also then flipped with Toronto. Well, PJ Tucker, you were never keeping. Okay, they were never keeping him. To get Davion Mitchell, who has the best assist-to-turnover ratio that any Heat point guard has ever had to this stage of the season. He's killing it in ISO situations, which I did not expect that. The three-point shooting is not where it was last season, but it's leveled off about where we said it would be tolerable, which is around that 35% mark. He's defending at a high level. He had, him and Drew combined for 9 steals last night. That's part of the Jimmy trade, okay? Mm-hmm. And we said at the time, again, this guy is a perfect Heat fit. They've been scouting him for a couple of years. He's found a true home in his third stop. But then go beyond Davion. We haven't even seen Kasparis yet. And to me, the final form of this offense, which is this read and react thing, I know Cass likes pick and rolls, which is going to be interesting to see how they reincorporate that. But once he's ready to get there, there's going to be pockets of the game for him, I think. It may not come this season. It may not come until the second half of the season where he's running that. And by the way, he's the guy who can unlock Ware ultimately, offensively, because of his ability to – we've seen that already. Okay, with a lot.
It may help Bam, too.
It should help Bam when Bam comes back. And so they added him, a high-end prospect – in a draft that's proving to be a great draft so far. Okay, there's like 6 candidates. Knipple looks great. Cedric Coward looks great. Okay,
and people were down on the draft. Remember how they said like the first round picks were no different than the late second round picks,
right?
And,
no, but it's been really good. It's been Flagg who's struggled, but that's because they've got him in the wrong spot. But Cass was part of that group. Like he's going to get there. Okay, at some point. It may not be right away. So you added all that, and then remember, they also got Kyle Anderson, who they weren't going to keep this year, but they were able to use Kyle Anderson's contract to complete the Norm Powell trade, which is honestly, there's no comparison now. It is the best move that any team made this entire offseason. I've looked at all of them in terms of what you gave up and what you brought back. You gave up 2 players who were not going to be in your rotation. One was basically there for vibes. Okay. The other, Kyle Anderson, was a player you didn't want to consistently play because he does some good things, but he was holding back others. You give up these 2 guys and they were able to get Norm Powell.
Kyle Anderson, so it wasn't a situation where they got him and they were excited when they had him, but had they had the opportunity to send him elsewhere, Ethan, and get completely under the tax, they probably would have. And right. But I say that because it's also interesting and it reminds us that things happen for a reason, I guess, right? Because that deal was the exact number they needed when they put it together with other contracts to get to Powell's salary.
Right. And let's look at the other part of the Powell thing. The Clippers called the Heat on Powell because they wanted John Collins, but they also knew they were probably going to get Bradley Beal. There were Heat fans who wanted the Heat, and this Bradley Beal thing that never died. Bradley Beal is one of the worst regulars in the NBA right now. It's not just a contract thing. He's been awful. I mean, go check out what Clipper fans are saying. They are like besides themselves that Norm is not there anymore. Okay, like just look at some of the if you look at the people that I follow on Clippers Twitter, okay, the people who are prominent out there, they are miserable that Norm was downgraded to Bradley Beal. Now the Clippers got Bradley Beal at half the number that the Heat got, or less than half the number that the Heat have Powell, and they didn't want to extend Powell. But I think Clipper fans right now would have been okay with them extending Powell. So you end up getting you've gotten, again, you didn't get Powell for Jimmy, okay, but you needed a piece to complete the Powell trade. They tried to trade Highsmith in that deal, but the Clippers didn't want Highsmith. And then I know Heat fans were upset about packaging, and there's 2 more deals to talk about, so I'll let you wrap on all this. So then you trade Highsmith, and I know people were upset about them dealing Highsmith and not getting a pick for him earlier and having to include a pick. Hayward hasn't played yet. Okay. All right. Like, and I'm
We'll
not
see
saying
if Brooklyn gets something for him. Everybody assumes that that's possible, and maybe, but the way that Shane Battier said he was no use on bad teams, Haywood Highsmith is the same. He's not as good as Shane Battier, but he's
no
very similar in that he's only useful on
on
a
a good
good
team.
team. So
Yeah, he has to be on one of like 10 to 12 teams in the league that you can plug him in. And again, his defense slipped, and we like Haywood. That's not it. But also trading Haywood cleared the path for Jaime.
yep.
And Larson, because you were not going to play all three of them. We know Spo was down on Haywood, but he did go to him at certain times, and him not being in the equation has freed them up to play the young guys. We didn't. Now you'll say, well, of course you're going to play Jaquez. We were not saying, of course, you're going to play Jaquez before the season. Okay. Nobody saw this coming. Okay. Now he's a 6th man of the year and most improved player candidate through 10 games. And then there's the other trade where they traded Duncan, who, God bless his heart, did plenty of stuff for Miami. He's starting to play pretty well in Detroit. But again, he's on the other side of 30. You were going to be committing money to him. Okay. You pick up Fontecchio, who's a different kind of shooter, but has given you production at a cheaper cost slightly without the long-term commitment. So, Greg, I'll let you wrap on this, and we'll talk about the other side of this. So since the Jimmy trade, okay, since you're back to a quarter with Jimmy, you got Wiggins, who's hit big shots for you and has production that's close to Jimmy so far. You got Davion Mitchell now, who you re-signed to a 2-year contract on $12 million per year, and he has been elite as in isolation and an assist to turnover ratio. Like, he's playing at a better level than he did last year, in my view.
Oh, for sure.
3-point shooting is not quite what it was, but everything else is better. Okay,
Absolutely.
Offensively. Okay, you got Kaspers, who we haven't even seen yet. All right, and I expect good things from him down the road. Let's just trust Adam Simon on this. All right, so you've got Kaspers on that. You got a piece that you were able to finalize the deal for Powell with the contract and Kyle Anderson. You got Fontecchio, and you got and again, you had to give up a 2nd-round pick with Haywood, okay? But you cleared a path for these other guys, and you don't have Duncan's money sitting on your books for the next few years. I mean, I don't know if you don't call that like an A+, considering the circumstance. And I was not calling it an A+ at the time. I said it was a B. But looking at it now, if you don't call that an A+, I don't know what they have to do, okay, other than get Jokic to demand a trade to Miami. Like, to me, that's a pretty damn good 9 months.
Yeah, and there were fans that actually were giving them far worse grades, and they were, talked about as a team that you didn't just. No one knew what this group was going to be, and it's because the secret element of this that we couldn't predict. We weren't talking about it. Zach Lowe alluded to it in the offseason because I have a hunch that maybe him and Spo connect every once in a blue moon. And he said, look for their offense to look differently. And it was a very quick comment. And then he moved on with his show. Right. And what we just couldn't quantify, estimate, or you can't, have the foresight to say that it was going to happen is the entire shift in the way that they play and the way that the roster complements that. Now, these guys are hitting shots. It's only 10 games in. But the 20-game mark, Ethan, is when usually this organization has always said that's when we're going to make our first, let's just call it like a quarterly review where they're like checking up on the roster and seeing where they feel they are, where they could get to, all that kind of stuff. So they're halfway there, and they're 6-4, one of the best offenses in the league. The pace, assists are way up. It's just a completely different brand of basketball. And that's when, as they were accumulating different pieces and pulling the roster together, we on our preview show where I did say I thought Jaquez was going to have a bounce back year. I just want to document that, and I'll go grab that clip. But we also said, does this team have enough size? Still question mark. And do they have enough shooting? And look at what we've watched. And
Shooting's crazy.
They had a lot more than I think we expected them to have, but the system is a big credit to all this. And it reinforces that the most valuable asset of all of them, including all the first round draft picks, is still Eric Spoelstra.
Well, and that's the way they view it. The way to circumvent, so to speak, to use a dirty word, the salary cap and the luxury tax is to pay the other people a good amount of money and make them comfortable and have them bring out the best in your talent. Now, do they need a top end guy to win a championship? Yes, we're not going to argue otherwise. But they've gotten some guys to pop that they could be pieces to get that guy now. And that is one of the better developments of the first 10 games. All right, we'll close this thing up on the other side. And again, still doing this. I'm not saying this team's going to win 55 games. But I think from a backed into a corner position, what we were looking at where Jimmy didn't want to really play anymore for them, and what they've come out of it with is pretty damn good. And there were a couple chuckles last night from people I spoke to at the arena about Jimmy already complaining about things in Golden State. So it's going to continue. All right, here's what you should never complain about. Where did my money go? Right? You don't want that. I mean, when I lend Greg money, he doesn't pay me back. But I mean, that's not because of the app. It's Cash App. Check it out. We're going to tell you how to sign up for it, and again, get some additional cash. But I want to tell you about the card also. Built-in card security that keeps your money safe and the protections you expect. When you get the Cash App card, not only do you get access to a ton of perks and benefits like exclusive early access to nationwide concert pre-sales or discounts on popular brands, but you also have that extra security with the power to instantly lock or unlock your card right from your phone in just one tap. If a suspicious transaction pops up on your card, Cash App has your back by automatically declining the purchase and sending you a heads up to confirm if it's you or not. Behind the scenes, you can rest assured knowing your account balance is protected by 24/7 fraud monitoring. Spend with peace of mind today and order a Cash App card in the app or at cash.app/card. Also, for a limited time, new Cash App customers, do this first, can earn $10 if they use the code SECURE10 in their profile at sign up. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts provided by Cash App, a blocking brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. All right, when we do this, we have to acknowledge that a lot of the reason they were stuck in the position that they were in last February was because of decisions that didn't go as well, right, as some of these had, including the Terry Rozier thing, which is the cloud that, that cloud's never going away. All right. Like, as far as, you're going to be regretting that first round pick. And of course, the league's not going to give them any relief at this point and all the rest. You hope maybe they will, but I'm not expecting it. I don't think they're expecting it anytime soon. And Barry's well documented, like the 7 different things that the Heat have been screwed on with that. And we probably should do an episode on that as well. Barry, you're invited. I worked for all your bosses. Okay. It's just the damn podcast. Okay. You can come on. You can speak to us. You're not going to.
Just review his writing. It's all in.
That's it. Well, this is why newspapers are dying, because they don't want to promote their own people. There's a lot of reasons, but that's one of them. So anyway, I'll buy Herald as small as we may be, right? That's what they said about me 5 years ago. Anyway, sorry, got off the subject. Terry Rozier, not a great transaction. No. What do you think? Do you think the organization learned anything since then that led to these moves, or is this just chance that a lot of this stuff has worked out?
It's partly chance. I think the Norman Powell trade, like that, getting that kind of value for basically nothing, like they gave up nothing. That is, you just don't expect for those opportunities to show themselves. So you do have to acknowledge that is an outlier in terms of trades. Usually you have to give up something to get a player as good as Norm. The Clippers are doing weird stuff. They wanted the oldest roster on planet Earth, and they got it.
They did.
And for me, it's I lost my train of thought.
No, I know what you're saying, is that the Norm thing, that you can't expect that's going to happen again, right? Like, they literally got a phone call from a team that wanted to offload.
Sorry, now I'll pick back up. Sorry. Okay. Thank you for connecting the dots for me. You don't know how a roster is going to respond to a new system. And so that was the big element that also, when we look back on things, I think we need to acknowledge that we just didn't know how they would respond. And it's only been 10 games, but even if the wins and losses don't stay great, Like they may, hover around 500 for periods of time. Remember, we're doing this review, Ethan, and it's without Bam in the last few games and no Tyler at all. So they've still got the upside of that coming down the road. So it's an interesting thing where I don't know that it was so much strategic as they got, but you got to get kind of lucky to bounce back from these things. But the one thing that they did do is they appear to have pulled together pieces that complement each other enough to where this system is being executed and flourishing. And so you have to definitely acknowledge that.
Pieces and personalities. I think it's both, actually. This is a group that they fit. It's just very loose in there. And we always talk about this winning lead to chemistry, does chemistry lead to winning? I do think we've seen Bam take more of a leadership role this year, even than last year. You saw him pulling Ware aside, and I thought Norm would help with that, and he has. They click. Jimmy and Bam did not click by the end. We talked about it a lot. Okay, they really didn't. They had two completely different personalities. All right, I mean,
and then resentment about an extension.
And then I do think fair resentment the other direction. We talked about this too. Every community event had to be Bam. Every appearance with the media after a bad game had to be Bam, right? Like at a certain point, like I don't care if you're the nicest dude on earth, and he is, okay? You don't want that shit. Like, I mean, seriously, like why don't that guy do it? Like, I'm not saying I'm not speaking for him. I'm just saying as you watched the two of them, it never felt comfortable. It never felt close.
Not like it did at first.
It did for the first year, and Jimmy would praise him and all the rest of that. But like towards the end, like no, it's just and that's why again the cloud needed to be cleared. It's not that Jimmy didn't do incredible things. Look, Shaq did incredible things. Okay, well more so the first year than the second year, but they won the championship the second year. Check out our 2006 series, by the way. We're going to be airing more of those episodes coming up with Mateo, because then the Heat are starting to honor it as well. But it just like. I think Bam needed a low-key personality with him, but somebody who is going to also inspire him to speak up. And it just looks like they have a very natural, calm kind of chemistry there, but Norm is very driven. He just doesn't need to tell you about it. And I feel like this is where they need to be. They need more talent. No question. Some of this talent emerging helps them with that. But the one thing I don't want to devote, we're almost out of time here. I want to devote a full episode to this. I wonder, and put this in your pocket and write it down, because I think this is important to be talking about. If you're a player around the NBA right now and you're watching the Heat play, you're watching the empowerment and the freedom that a world-class coach is giving them. Don't you want to play in that? Do you want to play in a system like, say, the Grizzlies are playing in right now, where this is a European coach, okay? Spoelstra is an American coach employing some European style. You're talking about but a European coach where they don't placate the stars or the players or anything like that. They have a different culture about the way they go about that stuff. We saw it with David Blatt when he came to, okay? Like, do you want to? I'm not saying players are going to want to go to Memphis, but you're going to want to go to an organization to play for a coach who's very like this, or a coach who basically said, look, I know I'm good at what I do, but I'm going to give you guys. All I'm doing is I'm going to take care of the spacing for you. That's it. Okay, I'm going to create spacing for you. I'm going to hammer that down. When the ball's in your hands, though, go. Okay, like if I'm a star player who is not heavily reliant on pick and rolls, like say a Ja, okay, but just somebody who just wants to play. Do you know how good Kevin Durant would have been in this damn system?
I know, and that's
right.
I think like as we close here, we have to acknowledge that when the dust settled on the Jimmy Butler situation, everyone was going to ask what would be left. And it appears as if there's a really good mix of some, we'll call them all-stars because Bam's been one 3 times. Tyler's been one once. Norm isn't quite in that group, but really good vet. They've got some good young players, and they have a lot of, there's no dead weight necessarily on the roster other than the Rozier situation being unresolved, but they have pieces and they have options. And I think that is something that we wondered what it was going to all look like after the Jimmy Butler era was over. It's not easy when a strong personality who took you as far as Jimmy did exits. Like organizations usually have to like take a couple years to figure out where the hell they're going to turn it. And it seems like the Heat have kind of built the plane as they were taking off. And here we are.
Yeah, it's been impressive so far. We'll see if it sustains. No Bam coming up in the first game against Cleveland. This is the team that destroyed this team by 92 points in the last 2 games. Cleveland is not whole right now. They're missing some players also. Well, they have gotten a couple back, but Strus is still out. It'll be interesting to see if the Heat match up. I'll tell you, if the Heat get a split and they're 7-5 coming out of this first 12, and
Hell
then
yeah.
we're starting to count down the days till Bam and Tyler coming back, playing this style. I'll say this, Greg, being in the arena last night, that place is lit up again. They're not expecting the team to crash anymore like they were last year. Okay. And that was post Jimmy too. They're not expecting the team to fall apart. It's like you don't really want to leave because it's fun. Like, yeah, they're gonna give up some points, but they're gonna get some back. And it's just so much more fun watching that than watching them try to grind to 100. Like it's been an enjoyable 10 games so far. And there's somebody who talked to me from inside who said, you're too down on this team. They said that before the season. They said, we like what we have. Norm's going to be an all-star. You're going to see. Okay. I'm my ears are open. And my eyes have been, okay. It's been an interesting mix. It's been fun. We'll see if it continues. All right. Appreciate it, Greg. Check out our sponsors, Cash App. Use the code SECURE10, Prize Picks. Use the code FIVE.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.